I'm Scott Sommer. I've been practicing holistic medicine for more than 20 years. Our philosophy with this podcast is combining ancient wisdom with modern research to help you protect and heal your family so you can thrive in today's world and the challenges that we're faced with on a daily basis. So let's think about this for a minute, and relationships especially. I would say that, a person that's hormonally balanced is going to be a person that you're going to love to talk to, that you're going to be attracted to, and someone that you enjoy being with because they're balanced. They feel happy, joyful. They are a great person to be around. On the other hand, the other contrast to that is a person that's hormonally out of balance. You're going to feel very almost like a porcupine. And so let's talk about a couple different examples and stories that would apply to this principle. Let's take a man first, and let's just say Bill. Let's call him Bill, a patient of mine of many years. And so Bill was, reaching, he's always athletic and active and, had plenty of muscle and worked out his whole life, did a lot of skiing. And then as life went on, every decade he got a little slower, a little more tired. He gained weight, belly fat especially, right? And nobody wants that. But those are all signs of hormone imbalance for men, and specifically testosterone and estrogen. And those are the two major hormones for men, as well as insulin, that create this belly fat, as well as cortisol. So these are the major hormones that cause this problem for Bill. And so as he went on in life, he got to about 60, 65, and kind of lost interest in his business. He wanted to take a nap and go home after 3 o'clock. He was self-employed, and he had just the greatest life. He had plenty of money. He had a great wife and a great life, but yet he just couldn't enjoy his life anymore. He just ran out of energy in the afternoon. He wanted to eat a lot of sugar at night, bowls of cereal and or ice cream, and he just started to decline at that point. And there really a lot of his symptoms were a loss of muscle mass, sarcopenia, and so that was a problem for him, and he just couldn't quite snap out of it. And that's a sign of a major hormone imbalance that's gone on for too long. And so finally we got him back, got his thyroid balanced again, got him on the right supplements so that we could regulate his blood sugar. So finally he started to lose belly fat. He went back to the gym. He's skiing now on a regular basis, and and he's in his 70s. So he's doing things that he used to do back when he was in 40s and 50s, re-enjoying his life again, his wife, his life, his business. He's excited, and he's living life. And now he's thinking about retirement, and he realizes that if he didn't go back to regaining his hormone balance, that nothing would change. He would just get worse, because hormones really affect our mood, our energy, our stamina, and our vitality overall, and our relationships. So now let me switch over now. Let's talk about an example of a woman. Let's call her Jill. And so Jill has been going through some menopausal symptoms now for a while. And she gets these terrible full body, heat flashes. And they're so bad that at night, she has to put on a fan in the room, and her husband's cold. She's hot. She has to change the sheets because she sweats terribly throughout the night. It's very uncomfortable, hard to sleep, hard to feel rested the next morning. Her mood is off. She knows she's irritable and edgy, and it's affecting her relationships with her children, with her husband, and she doesn't want to be that way, but the way she feels is uncomfortable and edgy, is a good way to, like a porcupine, basically. And so for her, unlike the man, Bill, Bill was just unmotivated, and that's a lack of testosterone, and drive has been gone for him. And then he finally got it back. But for Jill, It was really about feeling edgy, and also periods of anxiety and depression are very common for menopausal women. And these are all terrible things to deal with because it's really hard to have a normal life. And because you never know when it's going to hit you, for a woman especially, with hot flashes and mood swings, not able to sleep at night. And, she's in her, early 50s, just wanting all this to go away. And so this is a perfect example of how we help Jill overcome her hormone imbalance with the right herbal supplements, and got her vitality back and really got her life back. And both for Jill, who now became a very, a nice person again, was connecting with her husband again, and just had a lot of vitality in life, and was excited to go to bed at night and sleep finally and not feel these unexpected hot flashes. And, her hair got thicker. She got more hair. Her skin became younger looking and more hydrated because of the proper hormone balance. And finally, she just, her hormones just, as far as the menopause stopped, she stopped her cycle finally, and everything went back to normal. And she started to feel young again, like she did when she was in her 30s and 40s. And so this is what you have to look forward to. If you are out there right now listening to this or reading this and you're struggling with your hormones, you first of all have to understand what they are. And so really hormones are simply like a remote control. And so what happens is, when we're born and we go through puberty, which is the first hormonal change in life. And then finally, we say that there are 7 and 8 year cycles, that women or girls have a 7-year cycle. So every 7 years, hormones tend to change in women. That's why at 7 years old for girls, even young girls, there's a change slightly. And then at 14, it's typically when they start their cycle and their period. Then things change again at 21. And so that's the example of this whole cycle and how it represents hormone balance. And then for men, they have an 8-year cycle. And so that basically consists of every 8 years, men are behind women as far as growth and development, in early years. And so for them, as they're maturing, and men, after, become boys to men, at age 15, 16, they start shaving and have facial hair and all of those things. So those are some examples of the cycles in Asian medicine related to how hormones work. And I even have a story for you of a young girl that was 9. So she'd gone through the first cycle of hormones, cycling, if you will, and changes. And she was just crying at the drop of a hat. She was emotional. She was worried about everything, anxious. She's only 9 years old. And her parents didn't know what to do for her. And so I got her on the right supplements, helped balance her diet. We got her off the wrong foods that she was eating, especially a lot of dairy and chicken are really bad for hormones because they're full of hormones. And if your hormones are already imbalanced, then chicken and dairy are the worst things you could eat. And so sure enough, now this little girl is so great. She's so happy. She smiles every time she comes to see me in the clinic. And she's got her life back. And this is affecting her relationship with her parents, who were just distraught, didn't know what to do for her, and really felt hopeless. And now she's got her life back. And it's so exciting for all 3 of these examples of how men, as we age, have hormone imbalances just as much as women who go through menopause and the changes of life. And hormones are just as important as anything because they really control how fast we age or not. And if we have hormone balance throughout our lives, it really allows us to slow down the aging process and to feel alive again, like a new person, almost like refining your old youthful self. And that's the best way I can describe hormones. And the other analogy I have is that hormones are like a remote control on a television. And so many times it's like when things start to happen to us suddenly and you get hot flashes, or for men, we have muscle wasting and we can no longer go to the gym and feel great or not feel motivated anymore. Like you just want to give up sports or golfing, or, you just don't feel driven anymore. It's really as if you sat onto a remote control and suddenly a new channel appears that you don't want to watch. And say it's a horror channel, on TV, and you're trying to find the remote and you end up sitting on it and it's just randomly changing the channels. And that's how I would describe hormone balance. It's like you need to be able to once you find the balance in your hormones and you're on the right program with the right food and lifestyle and exercise, drinking enough water and taking the right herbal supplements and vitamins, then you can find that channel that you always love to watch. Maybe it might be Nature Channel or, comedy or Hallmark, whatever it might be. But the thing is, nothing's worse than having to watch a channel of something you don't like to watch and that just distresses you. And that's where most people are. Like all of a sudden the channel change after having a child, or after a young lady starts her period, or after a young man goes through puberty and starts to have terrible acne. That's another example of hormone imbalance. Or a woman could start to have mood swings after going through menopause or while going through menopause. Or infertility. We deal with this a lot, for women. One of my most successful cases over the years was a woman that did infertility treatments for 4 years without success. And they sent her home to adopt a child. They said, "We can't help you. You really should just adopt a child. That's the only way that you'll ever have children." And she came to me, and apparently after 6 months of treatment with acupuncture and nutrition and herbal formulas that I designed for her body personally, she finally came to me on the 6th month mark, and she said, "You're right." And I said, "About what?" And she said, "You are right. You promised me that I would be pregnant in 6 months, and I'm pregnant finally. After I tried all of these other methods and they were unsuccessful, and finally I am pregnant with a child." Well, the story goes on in such a positive way that not only did she have one child, but she had 3 children. And then finally on that 3rd visit, after that 3rd child, she asked me to stop the whole process. And she said she didn't want to have any more children. She had enough, a big enough family, and she was so grateful. But she wanted all this to stop. And the joke is I told her that I can start it, but you'll have to figure out a way to stop it. And so hormones are powerful. They control other aspects of our body. So let's just dive into this a little more so we could recognize whether or not you have a hormone problem. So hair loss, it's a big deal, right? I mean, whether you're a man or a woman, losing your hair is not fun. And many times, for the most part, it's not necessary. If you get your hormones in balance, your hair can be luscious, full again. And so whether it be a man or a woman, now if you've already lost your hair for many years as a man, it's much harder, to gain that back. But nonetheless, for women especially, and if it's early stages of hair loss, we can definitely get your hair back in place. And it's all about hormones. It's literally the channel of hair that we need to get back. A second area is skin. So, when your skin starts to wrinkle more than you've noticed before, fade, becomes dehydrated, it's got a lot of liver spots or age spots on it. Those are all about hormones. So hormones keep our skin supple, alive, young looking, youthful, hydrated. It's all about the skin and the hormone connection. Muscles are another thing. If you notice as a woman or a man that you start to lose vitality in your muscles, it's like, what you used to be able to do is you used to lift something without any problems. And now you have problems like opening a jar, twisting it off, or you have to ask somebody, or, you just lack strength in your legs. Maybe when you're walking now, you just feel like there's no vitality or strength. You used to be able to run and jog, and now you have no strength in your legs, or maybe you have no gains in the gym as a man or a woman. You used to be able to put on more weights, and now you're kind of going backwards with weights. So muscle mass is critical, and we lose so much of it By the time we reach like 60 or 70, we've lost a tremendous amount of more than 50% of our muscle mass unless we're continually, daily, and weekly working towards building our muscle mass. But you can't really build muscle fully unless you have proper testosterone for men and women. So that's a hormone that we all have, men or women, but men have more testosterone than women. But on the other hand, hair growth, let's going back to hair, for women, if they start to get hair on their chin or other areas where they don't want hair and have to pluck it out, those are all signs of testosterone overgrowth or overabundance of testosterone and having more of a manly look or, so that has to be corrected for women and that can be, very easily. So then finally, your mood, nobody likes a porcupine, whether or not you're married to one or you feel like you're a porcupine, because you're prickly with your attitude towards life, or maybe become negative suddenly. I see this a lot in people, they were really positive people at one time, and then all of a sudden they're just not interested in, anything, exercise, going on a date with their spouse, or just trying something new. And so they'll lose interest, and that would be part of the mood. And so all that can be corrected by balancing your hormones. You can actually become joyful and happy again about life. Another area is focus and memory. So, people say this a lot for, let's just say, hypoglycemic, which is another hormone problem, is insulin, right? So if you don't have normal insulin levels, you're pre-diabetic, then the insulin levels swing and they affect your mood. Like if your blood sugars drop, you can become foggy and irritable and something called hangry, and all of this is real, for people. And then also your focus can drop out of place and memory, you can start to lose memory. And all of this can be hormone related for sure. And then finally, the other part is, I believe that this is plays such an important part in attractiveness. Let's use that term, So whether or not you're single and you're wanting to be more attracted to the opposite sex, or maybe say you're already married and you're in a relationship for a while and with your spouse, and you just don't feel as like they're not as attracted to you, or you're not as attracted to them. And so this chemistry that you used to have for other people or for yourself, or is really about the chemistry of life, is really about hormones. So weight is the other issue that really is a trigger for people not understanding that this is a major symptom of a hormone imbalance. So when you think about it, so weight is a major hormone imbalance problem. And it's not just about not exercising or not eating the right foods, but it's really a thyroid problem. And there's other hormones involved too, like excessive estrogen for men and women, not enough testosterone for drive, ambition, adrenaline, not having enough energy, or cortisol for belly fat. So all of these hormones, including insulin, when you have high insulin levels, you store body fat. When you have low insulin levels, you retrieve body fat and burn it, like through a ketogenic diet as an example. And so really hormones, the only way you can really fix your weight is to have complete hormone balance. And so remember that if you have belly fat or you're gaining weight in other parts of your body, and your percentage of body fat is higher than, say, 25% over the years, this is a sure sign that you're missing hormone balance. And once you attain hormone balance and you reactivate your thyroid, it's like starting a lawnmower engine that's been dead in the garage for a long time and priming the pump and finally getting it to start again so it runs like it should is the best way to burn fat as fuel. And the only way to do that is through lifestyle changes to regulate your hormones, taking the right herbal and nutritional supplements. And then finally, exercising, of course, on a daily basis, as well as working your muscles. You must gain muscle to be able to burn fat. as well as intermittent fasting. So these are the signs and symptoms of a major hormone problem when somebody has belly fat and just can't lose the weight no matter what. When, as an example, when they're 30 or 40, they can eat anything they want and it didn't affect them. So remember that weight loss equals hormone balance. So ultimately, hopefully what you can get out of this, what I want you to remember above anything that we talk about today, is that everyone has a hormone balance. And the reason why, when you think about it, is because we're constantly bombarded with the wrong hormones around us. We're surrounded by foods that have hormones in them, like chicken, as an example, plastic water bottles with phytoestrogens, which are those things, xenoestrogens, which are chemicals that act like estrogen in the body, and so on. And even our tap water in general is full of hormones as well as pharmaceutical drugs, from other people, and our own tap water that we drink, especially living in a big city. So when you think about it, everybody needs to find hormone balance, whether or not you want to lose weight, have more strength, have a better mood, get through menopause normally and gracefully, have a child with as far as infertility challenge, or if you're just a young girl or young boy struggling with your mood. And as a parent, this can be a very challenging thing to understand. Why is your child struggling in so many ways with focus, socially in school, and why is their mood swinging so much and extreme? Because it can be really extreme. The farther away your hormones are from balance, the more extreme your symptoms will be. So let's talk for a minute about something you can do for yourself involving hormone balance. And the first thing with herbs, there's some great herbs that really help to regulate, for instance, hormones and cortisol, and that's called ashwagandha. So ashwagandha is an amazing herb to help regulate stress and cortisol levels. For instance, one of the reasons why you would use this herb is because you can't fall asleep at night, and you become a night owl, and you can't wake up in the morning, and you can't go to sleep at night. And so that's a sure sign of a cortisol swing, is what we call it. And so this would be a perfect example of an herb called ashwagandha that would be good for a man or a woman to help balance out their stress levels. And so that would be a really great herb. A second herb that's used a lot in South America and Peru and grown up in the 5,000 foot elevation or more is called maca. And maca is amazing. You can put like a teaspoon or two into your protein shake, or even mix it in your oatmeal or whatever it might be. But maca really helps to regulate hormone balance for men and women. And it's an anti-aging herb that's used. It's grown like a potato in the Peruvian mountains, and it is incredible. And usually herbs like this, we know that when they grow in difficult environments, stressful environments of cold and difficult climates, that they help to adapt our own body to difficult climates of stress. And that's why ashwagandha and maca are both great herbs to help with this process. And I would say the other thing that's very, very helpful would be to avoid carbohydrates or reduce them significantly. Because we know if we control insulin, which is what I call the tiger in the cage, if you keep the tiger in the cage, meaning tiger is insulin, once the insulin gets out of the cage from eating too much sugar, desserts, or carbohydrates in general, including bread and bagels, then these are the things that will greatly influence your mood and your weight gain and throw your hormones completely off. So that's why it's so important to avoid soda, sugary drinks, artificial sweeteners, and eat only 1 or 2 meals a day is better than snacking. And do some intermittent fasting where you skip a meal. Maybe you can start skipping breakfast and eat lunch at 11 o'clock in the afternoon or in the morning. instead of eating 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 meals a day, which is only going to cause more weight gain and stress to your body and your pancreas. You can just, reduce the amount of food that you're eating, go to a low carb diet, and start working out with weights, at least twice a week, doing some light bands, and it doesn't have to be heavy lifting, but for 15 to 20 minutes twice a week, you can stress your muscles and build muscle mass, which is the most important thing you could ever do to balance your hormones. And then the second thing is to make sure you aerobically exercise each and every day to have a stronger and healthier life and a better liver, because we all know that the liver is the factory of all the hormones. So the last part is to keep your liver healthy and well. I would start off with a lemon morning and night, half a lemon with a pinch of salt, Himalayan salt ideally, and warm water. And all those things especially will help your liver function better. And when your liver functions better, it's the next step closer to finding hormone balance, weight loss, and vitality.